Trade Transparency project started out as a way to try to communicate to people in a simple and engaging way about trade.
Welcome to our hack bootcamp.
Today is the start of what I consider a special day.
As part of this project, we've run 3 hack days, one in Cape Town, that's already happened in early September, one in Lagos, which is happening now, and one here in London.
Why don't we give it out to other people? Let's see what they think about it, what they can do with it, rather than making assumptions. And that's why I applaud the initiative. It makes a lot of sense.
So the hacking was more about let's go out there and ask them what they want to do with the data.
The whole idea with the hackathon is purely bringing together diverse people with diverse sets of skills, putting their resources and their efforts into using those talents for good.
Most of the people here are individual software developers, designers. Most of them are members of the CC Hub.
A lot of them are people that we've worked with before, we've had at events previously, so we know their backgrounds. So we were looking for people we knew were good at producing solid results in the time frame.
It's a very unusual technology hub, so don't think it's the same kind of technology hubs that you have all over the world. It's more a hub that's community driven, that leverages technology and innovation for change.
We're doing it for the good of society. Let's go, let's do this.
I just wanted to introduce to you what the Trade Transparency Project aims to do. Simple idea of it is to try to make trade a little bit more interesting to ordinary people and to make them aware that it affects pretty much all aspects of their lives that involve buying things. There is lots of publicly available data from all countries that you can just download off the internet and look at, and the only people who use it are, well, people like me who work as trade economists.
Even though I can read and I read with understanding, I still don't understand what's happening here. So it was just a bit too much for me.
It's really up to us to decide whether we want to compare, contrast, we want the application to show whether it's comparing, contrasting, we can manipulate it live. Okay, it's beginning to make more sense. Before you just dump data and then...
It's not a question of it's not very transparent, it's how do you organise 250 fields of stuff? It wasn't complicated, it just took time. And if I wasn't doing this hack day, I wouldn't have had necessarily the impetus to do that.
I believe in hacking. I think the whole thing is, our technology is so complex and difficult now. In the olden days, maybe we could make things like a brick, and you kind of knew how it was going to behave and what was going to happen with a brick. You don't have to reboot a brick, upgrade a brick or things like that. But I think now that technology is so complex, the best way to probably design technology is to hack it, because the best way to figure out how technology fits in with people is to give it to people and play with.
One of the best things was the whole different point of views, because it's not like we just go to this wonderful solution.
It'll be good if you can identify the areas where you see gaps, so that we can think about providing data in those areas.
People are going to know what's happening across the world. So will they have a choice to then decide to buy locally?
And you buy a packet of tea, that's probably not where your money's going, because the tea will probably have originated in India. So we can't tell if the tea they're buying is...
You've just ruined my funny point. Thanks for that. Have your iPad back.
No, and I've ruined the entire app. It
Why?
makes no sense now, because you can't tell whether something was imported or grown in the country.
If you have other data that you feel will be useful, you can use it, but please let's know the source.
Where's the data come from? I don't know. It's weird because it appears that it's somehow crowdsourced, because people must be uploading it themselves or whatever. Yeah. And I don't know whether there's some kind of accountability or something like that. But
I'd like to think that by not having a very narrow focus for the project, we've tried to steer away from saying that this is about one thing and focused more on just getting the data out there in a digestible form.
So if people learn more about trade, how would it change their behaviour?
We hope with this application, when the next opportunity comes for them to vote, they won't be looking at shoes or military background or things like that. They'll actually be looking at the issues that affect them.
Because there was openness, people can now put pressure more based on their own enlightened self-interest.
They see that by them just going into the community now, saying that let me check the information on my cell phone, actually gave them a status. that people don't look down on them. That they said even when they go to a government meeting in these rural villages with the officials, that they said, well, you know, but this is the information that we have on our mobile phone. Wow. Now all of a sudden they're not being questioned. And somehow that digitization of the information has equipped and empowered them, but also increased their voice.
So we thought, what about our local guys? What about our ordinary guys that walk on the street that do not have smartphones? How are we catering for them as well? So the idea that we thought, bring it back home to our famous biggest social network giant, the Mixer platform.
So I assume this works on quite low-powered mobile device.
Or the part of the society that still carry phones that are feature phones or dumb phones. These guys still have SMS on them. So because of the penetration of mobile, it's a lot easier now to push information to people. Getting more people aware actually depend on mobile.
I mean, we all sort of take it for granted that most people in their pockets have some kind of supercomputer.
You know, you have internet on mobile and on PC, but with mobile you can then even use the SMS aspect of things, which is massive for us in the country.
I never heard of Mixit before then, so it's clearly a solution that is locally suited.
Social media is not quite easy to get into a part of the society, which are more likely the part of the society that are aware anyways, that are interested in knowing more about what happens around them. And those people can then become the champion that you can then leverage to get down to the grassroots.
What is your view about how that relates to different men?
Trade leads to economic growth leads to poverty reduction. It's a bit of a chain, but it happens.
Because what's happening with the trade information is it causes the poor to remain poor. That's the reality of it, because of not being informed. And I'm hoping that being able to access this information, being able to make, and I'm specifically referring to what is known as the emerging markets or the developing nations, really to see many people being emerging out of poverty. I hate the tag just calling it emerging markets, but I'm hoping that it means that people will emerge out of the situations into a much better situation economically.
I was a bit nervous in the beginning about what will people make of this data and are they going to do anything with it, and they did. The tools and graphics that we developed in each of the locations were context specific.
People do in fact have more access to mobile phones than to formal education. So we tried to find a way around our rather sickeningly low literacy levels. We could not. We therefore decided that the route to take was not around but through.
Simple things like some things that are out of the government's control, like the price of oil, to other things like openness and how easy it is to do business or how population affects it. Now, this particular formula is only applicable to Nigeria.
Had a surprising number of common themes.
Just played a little. I mean, our whole concept was just trying to create something visually appealing and accessible.
Don't design complex stuff. Design as if you were designing for Fisher-Price. What matters is it's the relative size of the bar. Big is typically better, and we've tried to make it a journey that's explorable.
So like everybody else, we all focused on visualization. Because the first thing we noticed when we saw the data was we didn't understand it. Try and visualize the data the best we can and then show relationships.
We also decided that infographics are generally boring. So we decided that all our infographics are going to put into 2 maximum 3-minute infographic videos. Very similar to this one over here.
Have you ever considered the story behind the products you purchase?
What this simulator does is it pops up different things. Okay, what is actually the tariff? This is affected by the price of stuff at the ports. This is affected by different other things. And then you get educated and you can go out there, ask whoever your political leader is that I actually want you to help me change this.
And see what China make of that. China have responded. They've changed their tariff on tea from 65% all the way down to 16%. So that's very good for our exporters. It's great for our consumers who now pay lower prices for tea. But our domestic producers are very angry because there's all this Chinese tea coming in now.
And you get lots of unexpected things like an Aid for Trade board game.
It's a bit like you start off at the farm and you have all these chickens and you roll the dice and it takes you so many squares forward.
Yeah.
And then it says, oh no, you're stuck at customs for a
Yeah.
week. Lose 3 chickens.
Oh, you pick up a card that says carrot has increased.
I can do it as a board game.
That's quite good, yeah.
Maybe I'll do that.
That's quite complex, though, I think. Do you think you'd have enough time?
I'm going to do it as a board game. I'm going to do it like...
a real board, yeah.
Do it as a board game, and then we have squares, and I think by playing
by
playing it, you go, I haven't really considered that maybe being stuck at customs would happen. And then
the next Monopoly.
It is an experiment, but I'd call it a successful experiment.